Hey everyone, Dr. Amy Abelar with Acupuncture Practice Systems, and this video is going to talk about how to handle the situation and dip your toe in the water when you're kind of on the fence between whether or not you want to hire a front desk person or keep working yourself and do everything on your own. So my number one tip for this is to hire a temp agency. The number one reason why I suggest hiring a temp agency is because it is temporary, right? It could turn into a long-term thing if that's the way that you decide to go, or it could be something where you've dipped your toe in the water, you've checked out, or you've tried having a front desk receptionist and you've decided either this isn't for me, or this is too much of a headache, or this costs more than I thought it would, I actually can't justify the cost, and then you say, I no longer need this temp hire, and you're right back to where you started. So the really nice thing about this is it's a way for you to, like I said, dip your toe in the water, check it out, try it without going through the whole process of, shoot, well, now I hired this person, they're an employee of mine, and if I no longer need them and I can't afford to pay them anymore, then now I have to lay them off, and now they're going to collect unemployment, and now that's going to affect my unemployment rate and all of those things. So you don't have to deal with all of that if you go through a temp agency. Now, the catch with a temp agency is they will cost you more money, but that's because they are taking all of the risk and you are not. So one of the, some of the ways that they end up, the temp agencies will charge you more, the things that they are having to cover for is they're the ones who end up carrying the workers' compensation for that employee. They're the ones who deal with the unemployment insurance for that employee. They are also in charge of finding somebody for you and presenting that person to you. So the way that the process works when you're going through a temp agency is you reach out to the temp agency, you say, hey, this is the position, this is the job description, these are the tasks that I want this person to perform, and this is about what I want to pay. They can help you with saying, you know what, I think you're overpaying for that, or you're not paying enough, you're not really going to get a great quality candidate, I think you should be paying this rate instead. So they can help you with narrowing that down. Because obviously they want to create a match too, right? So it's in their best interest to help give you a little bit of advice in that arena. If you are an Acupuncture Practice Systems member, I have all of this stuff for you. I have the list of all the tasks, a sample job description, pay suggestions, all the things. So if you're a member, I have all of that to give you to start with so that you can give those things to a temp agency. And then the temp agency will post the job, they will find quality candidates for you, and then they'll present you with the top candidates. They'll say, hey, these are the people that I think are going to be good for you to interview and make a decision about which person you want to hire. Also inside Acupuncture Practice Systems, I have content on what to look for in a resume, what kinds of interview questions you could ask. There are definitely interview questions you can and you cannot ask, at least in the state of California, I'm sure other states as well. So you need to be very careful about that. But once you have these quality candidates in front of you, you have the opportunity to say, yeah, you know what? I like person A or B, and I would like to offer them a position at my office. That person is being employed by the temp agency. The temp agency is the one who is handling their employment. The temp agency will send that person to your office to do the work with the job description and the tasks that you have. Obviously, there's going to be training that's going to have to take place for that person. As an Acupuncture Practice Systems member, we also have videos and all sorts of things for you to give your receptionist to help train them on benefits of acupuncture, how to answer frequently asked questions from patients, different policies that you need to make sure that they're aware of your cancellation policy. Do you do Moxa for breech babies? If so, what time frame? You know, all of those things that your front desk needs to know to confidently answer the phone and answer those questions and get those patients booked. So we've got all that stuff in the membership. But then once you have that person who is now coming in as that temporary employee for you, if you decide at some point, you know what, actually, this is not working out. Maybe you've decided, wow, this is hugely beneficial, but this person's not working out. You can talk to the temp agency about replacing them with a different person. If you decide, you know what, this whole thing's not working out altogether, it's not the person, but like, I just can't afford this, or actually, you know what, I found that I really don't need someone, I'll just do it on my own, you can always tell the temp agency, I no longer need this temporary employee, and you can be done. At the way that contracts typically go, now obviously you have to talk to the temp agency you go through, but the way that temp agencies typically work is they will have a contract that states, this is how it was when I hired my very first employee on a temp agency, because I was also scared. I didn't know that I would for sure, I knew I for sure wanted someone. I just was like, oh my gosh, am I gonna be able to afford to pay them? This is really scary to take on my first employee. And so I went through a temp agency for my first. So the way that the contracts usually work is you're paying them, let's say you're paying the temp $20 per hour is what they are getting paid. You are paying the temp agency probably $28 to $30 an hour, maybe more. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, what the heck? If the employee is only getting 20, why am I paying 30? And that $10 an hour difference is the difference for the fact that temp agency found the person, combed through all the resumes, presented that person to you, they've gone back and forth with you, they've had meetings with you about what do you want, what are you looking for, what's your job description, all of that work that they've done. And then they're also using some of that money to cover workers' compensation insurance, the taxes that go into it, unemployment insurance, if that is something that ends up being needed to be used with this employee. So they've got all of that stuff built in. And it makes sense, right? They're a business too. If they did the work and they're carrying the liability, it makes sense that they would be charging an additional fee on top of that. Now, let's say typically the way that the contract works is it'll say, okay, for the first year or for the first 8 months or however long, you have to go through us. You cannot say, actually, I don't want to use the temp agency anymore, and then hire that person independently. You cannot do that until you have satisfied whatever that contract is. So you can always bail out early, but if you bail out early, you cannot hire that person directly because you didn't satisfy that requirement. So let's say you find a temp and you're like, wow, this person's amazing. I want to bring them on my own, and I don't want to have to deal with paying the temp agency anymore. Once that 8 months or 12 months or however long your contract was for, once that's up, then you can say, at this point, I would like to hire this person directly. If you do decide you want to hire that person directly, I personally use Gusto for my payroll. They're amazing, super easy to use, super user-friendly. And I talk way more about that in Acupuncture Practice Systems membership. But that would be the way that I would recommend for people who are on the fence about whether or not they want to hire an employee. One of the simplest, easiest ways to get started is, again, it costs you a little bit more, but you aren't doing all the work and you aren't carrying all the liability, is for you to go through a temp agency, for them to find you someone, and for you to try it out. So that's my tip on dipping your toe in the water for trying to hire employees. And for more content, you can subscribe to my channel.